Joining me now to discuss Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's plan to win the Russia-Ukraine war is Kervin, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance veteran for the U.S. Army and host of the podcast This Week Explained. Kervin, it's good to have you back. Zelensky is expected to lay out his plan for victory this week. What do you think we'll hear from him?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me on. What's going to happen here is Zelensky's going to continue to ask for those long-range weapons to be used further deeper into Russian territory. That's the first thing. That's part of his solution to end this war, get Russia to the table. He's then going to tell Biden that he's not going to capitulate to Vladimir Putin. He's not going to allow those annexed regions that Russia has recently annexed to be allowed to be held by Russia anymore. And then he's going to request more pressure internationally for a diplomatic solution to this war. And that hopefully, in his mind, gets him to peace before the December of this year in 2024, right after the U.S. elections, because I believe Zelensky's very worried about how these elections in the United States are going to play out, and he's worried about what Donald Trump has said, as opposed to some of the actions that Donald Trump had during his administration, where he actually carried out overt anti-Russian aggression campaigns within Poland to kind of defeat those Russian misinformation campaigns there.
Now, you mentioned these long-range weapons for attacking inside Russia, for Ukraine to attack inside Russia. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said in an interview with CBS, giving Ukraine access to such Western-made long-range weapons is the right thing to do. How would granting Ukraine such permission affect the war there?
Well, first of all, they've got to do it immediately because Russia is continuing to fortify their positions. They are getting to a point where those long-range missiles are not going to work anymore in a few months. So it's got to happen now. And what that's going to do is it's going to hit Russian targets that are hitting within Ukraine. It's going to then force Russia to move those positions further away from the Ukrainian border. And that gives Ukraine an edge. I think right now it's a perfect time for the West to allow it, from my analysis, and that is because there are reports coming out that the Kremlin's having internal discussions about how the saber rattling, their nuclear saber rattling, is not working. You know, that all of these red lines that Putin has put up, that he has actually not carried out once Ukraine has done something. It's no longer effective, and that the West can actually now allow Ukraine to use those munitions, and there is not going to be any retaliation from Russia.
Kervin, at the beginning here, you mentioned the election, the 2024 presidential election in the U.S. Zelensky was, asked about how the presidential race would impact the war in Ukraine. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a presidential campaign, so there's a lot of words going back and forth. We know right now that the Biden administration continues to support Ukraine with munitions and monetarily. We honestly don't know what Vice President Harris what she's actually going to do. She hasn't put out a policy. We're assuming she's going to follow the same policy since she's vice president as President Biden. And then, former President Trump, who is the Republican candidate, has publicly stated on multiple occasions that within 24 hours of his administration, he is going to end this war peacefully. What that would mean, and what Zelensky hears in that, is that Zelensky's going to have to capitulate. Zelensky's going to have to let Russia hold that territory in eastern Ukraine that Russia took over early in the war. And Zelensky does not want to do that. So he's very fearful that is Donald Trump's plan. Now, he's going to sit down with Donald Trump and show his victory plan, and maybe he's going to get, some assurances that a Donald Trump presidency is actually going to help Ukraine.
All right. Kervin, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance veteran of the U.S. Army. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me.